Just sitting here waiting to see if anybody comes online. So a few people promised me that they would get online tonight, so just give it a second or two and see. Have you done Christmas at your house? I'm just sitting here. I can see my Christmassy thing on the table there. I almost sat on it before. So we did our Christmas tree the other day and it was lots of fun. Dragged out all of the stuff that the kids made since... Hi Angelica, how are you? I'm just talking about having my Christmas stuff all out and ready for the big guy to arrive, and saying that we got out all of Elias's the stuff that he'd made since he was in kinder. It's all in a very special box and it's all front and centre, the very front of the tree. So I've had to let go of my control freakness and allow that, because that's what you do, right? And I just keep saying to myself that it's only for a few years, and then he won't want his, and I'll just tuck him away under the bed or something. Kerry's joined in. Hi Kerry, how are you? So tonight I've got my inner hippie going on, got my plaits in, and the reason for that is that I've had my most chilled weekend. Those that have followed me this weekend know that I took myself off to the beach and I bummed around and I got my feet in the sand and I drank wine, of course, and did some Netflix stuff that I haven't done for ages, and just kind of relaxed, took myself off to the day spa today. And when I do that, when I actually allow myself to have some downtime like that and to, well, allow myself, I have to push myself to do it. And when I do that, then I start to want to drag out all of my hippie clothes and wear my hair in plaits again. So I'm not really sure what that's all about. I think it goes back to travelling in Asia, and those were the times that, you know, I tend to, and still are, whenever I'm in Asia, I just completely zen myself out and start to turn into the hippie chick that I was in my teenage years. I think, I'm not really sure, I haven't understood it all, but that's what happens for me. So I think that's why the plaits are here today, because I just was kind of feeling that zenned out vibe and wanted to go with that. So that's why they're around tonight. So I hope that you girls have had an equally relaxing and fun weekend and doing lots of good stuff and maybe doing some work as well. I certainly got loads of work done in between my relaxing and mooching around on the sand. There was loads that got done, so I created a whole new sales funnel and wrote all my emails and everything for that, and created new sort of product flows, and everything's all set up, so that will all go live next week. So watch out for that. And yeah, so I did some strategy sessions and I did some client calls at the beach as well, and it was all going on, so it was a lot of fun. So a little theme has come up, as often is the case, for my clients, and perhaps a little bit for myself too. It's usually all sort of seems to be tied in together. And I was just saying to someone before actually that, you know, this is where often my content ideas come from, is that there's a bit of a theme that goes on for all the people around me. So my clients and people that I come across, you know, conversations that I have, and often it's the same sort of stuff that's coming up for me at the same time. And so that's where my content comes from, because I figure that it's like messages from the universe. You know, everyone's sort of feeling the same stuff at the same time. So that's obviously, you know, it's in my head and it's on my heart, and that's the stuff that I need to talk about. So this weekend it was very much about feeling that what you're offering isn't worth anything to anybody else. And often when we're just at the new stages of our business and we're just starting to get our message out, perhaps the clients aren't knocking down our door to work with us yet, it kind of feels like we're running a losing race. It sort of feels as though the stuff that we're putting out there is falling on deaf ears, and that maybe that means that it's not of value to anybody. And maybe that means that what we are super passionate about and what we want to sell to the world isn't worth what we think it's worth. Now, what happens then is when we start to have these little thoughts in our minds, is that the next step to that is that maybe because we're super passionate about this thing that we're offering, and if no one wants it and no one's interested in what we've got to say, then maybe that means that no one wants us and no one's interested in us, and it kind of translates into this whole sort of self-worth thing going on as well. So I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit tonight. Excuse me. And I wanted to talk to you about, having trust in whatever your idea is, and having trust in the fact that whatever you're passionate about, that somebody is out there and they need whatever it is that you're offering. But, it's very difficult to kind of reassure ourselves when we're not seeing any evidence of that. When the clients aren't knocking down our doors, and when, excuse me, all the messages that we're getting back from the content we're putting out there says to us that no one wants our thing, no one's interested in our thing. But here is the thing. Oh, Monica's there. Hi, Mon. So here is the thing, that there is 7 billion people in the world, okay? And I had this exact conversation via email with a client this week. And I said to her, there's 7 billion people in the world. And of those people, and I Googled this, there are however many, and I could only get the American figures because for some reason we didn't have stats on them for Australia or anywhere else in the world, but there's X amount of people that are into what you are offering. Now, surely out of all of those millions of people that are affected by the thing that you're offering, there's going to be enough that are into you and that resonate with you and your message to sustain a business, right? So it just basically comes down to numbers, that, there are enough people in the world. And this is something that comes up too when we get bogged down with that comparisonitis thing, when we're comparing ourselves to people that are seemingly kicking ass, doing exactly the same thing as what we're doing. And I just remind myself, and I remind my clients when they start to get a little bit like this too, that, there's enough people in the world to share that market, to have faith in yourself that just because there's 10 other people doing exactly the same thing that you're doing, or seemingly doing the exact same thing that you're doing, doesn't mean that there's not enough people in the world to spread that love around and for you to get a decent client base, or for you to sell enough of your product. Emily's jumped in. Hi, Em. Have you got your wine? So I'm just talking about, pushing through that point where you're getting your message out, you're sharing your story, you're selling your thing, but no one's buying and no one's engaging with your content potentially, or, you're just kind of feeling like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's my thing that I'm offering. Maybe nobody wants it. But the thing is with online marketing is that it doesn't happen overnight. It is a slow burn. And the other thing is that you don't know who is listening to your message. Now, I know this from experience because I've felt exactly the same thing. Where I've been putting content out day in, day out, and even still sometimes, I'll scroll back through my page to check out which posts were performing and which posts weren't performing. So then I can do more of the stuff that works and less of the stuff that doesn't, right? But when I'm looking through those engagement numbers and how many people have liked or commented on stuff, it doesn't always fill me with love. You know, it doesn't always make me think, oh my God, I'm kicking this. Sometimes I go, oh, that was an awesome post and it got 1 like. But then I'll be talking to people and they'll say to me, oh, I read that thing you put up, you know, that post that only got 1 like and that I had decided was shit and nobody wanted to hear about it. They are listening. And the other thing that happens too is that sometimes people need to sit back, and they might not be that person that gets themselves out there and expresses an opinion and puts themselves forward. So if they're that person, then they're probably not likely to jump in and comment on everything that you post up. They're not going to be those people that are your followers that love on everything that you post, okay? So there are people out there that just take a back seat and absorb everything that you have been putting up there. And then at some point, they send you a message because they want to work with you, or they go to your website and buy the thing that you're offering. But they had to take a little bit longer than what you had decided was the expectation for them to resonate with you. Sometimes we decide how long it's going to take other people to jump in there and buy. And that's not up to us. That's not our decision to make. It's up to them to just sit back and absorb our goodness and take in our message and listen to what we've got to say, and not necessarily jump in and comment, but at some point down the track, something that we put up in the form of a promotional post or a product or an offer or a special or whatever is the thing that they need to buy, and it's at the time that they need to buy it, and that's when you'll hear from them. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, oh, Kelly's there too. Hey, Kelly. Mayor Kelly is in the room. Everyone behave yourselves. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that sometimes when we are ready to give up, when we are thinking that, you know what, this is not worth it, they don't want to hear my thing, you know, I'm just going to crawl back under the doona and, you know, feel sorry for myself for a few days. When we're at that point, often it's at that time that things start to turn, the ship starts to turn, you know, and people do start to resonate. But if we allow ourselves to get caught up in that feeling sorry for ourselves, oh, Kelly says don't behave. Okay, you actually should probably know me better than that, Kelly. I've kind of run out of goodness a whole long time ago. I've only got naughty left, I think. So it's at that time when we are ready to give up that often things start to happen. So it's about maintaining that momentum and keeping on regardless of whether we feel that nobody is listening to us and nobody actually wants the thing that we want. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was what your ideal customer often looks like and who you should be targeting with your content. So if you're telling the message that you feel passionate about, that you feel you're called to, just have a little view to the next couple of things that I'm going to talk to you about. And this is something actually that's come up a lot this weekend and during the week last week I think I've had this conversation 4 times in the last couple of days, maybe. So it goes something like this. It goes along the lines of, Min, I don't know who it is. I don't know who it is that I should be selling to. I don't know how to frame my business, what to make it look like. Who should I be targeting with my content? I don't know for sure who it is that's going to want to buy from me. So if you're in that situation, if you're in that position and you're kind of like, you know, I know what I want to say, I know roughly what my message is, but I'm not sure exactly who it is that I should be targeting. So the best online businesses, the best businesses that seem to take off sort of naturally and organically, and you know, that come from a place of the heart and are helpful to people, the ones that serve people, are the ones that serve you a few years down the track, back in your life somewhere. And this is what I spoke to somebody about just like an hour or two ago. And I said to her, what it might be worth having a think about is that the person that you are best placed to serve is the person that you were back down your life path a few years ago. So take yourself back down that life path and think about a time in your life where you had a whole heap of challenges, where things were going really crap, where, you know, I don't know, it could be that your weight just ballooned, and so then came the depression and the feelings of, you know, bad self-worth and all the rest of it. It could be a marriage breakup. It could be losing your job. It could be, you know, oh, Emily's just said, this is exactly my ideal client, me in my 20s. Exactly, Emily, and I'm pretty sure I've had this conversation with you at some point too. So you take yourself back to a time that was pretty crap, okay? And then you think about all the steps that you took to transform that situation, to transform yourself, and to come out the other side bigger and better and bolder and ready to take on the world. So, for example, myself, you know, that point in my life was probably the end of my marriage, where, you know, I was a frail little 40-kilo broken thing, and, you know, I had no job, no house, no car. I had a 1-year-old baby, and I moved back home to live with my mum, you know, at the age of 34. So, you know, that was probably that point for me, and everyone has a different point, and, you know, they're all absolutely relevant and as important to ourselves. Now, often these heartfelt sort of servitude businesses are serving that person in their pain point, you know, when they're feeling that pain, when they're overcoming whatever they have to overcome, or before they do so. So then you are in a position as an expert, as somebody who's been through what that person's going through. Now, let's take myself, for example. In that spot, I could have probably done with a number of different people that I know in business today, sweeping in and helping me, you know. I've discovered since then kinesiology. I could have really benefited from some intensive kinesiology sessions if somebody was there to help me and was targeting their message to somebody who was exactly in my spot. I could have at one time in that period really benefited from a life coach like Emily to come sweeping in with some message of motivation and inspiration that resonated with me, and I could then follow her and absorb all her free content, and at some point I would have been ready to buy from her and sit down and have some sessions, you know. What else? Also at that time in my life, I was not taking very good care of myself. I certainly had no interest in the way I looked, or wearing makeup, or going to the hairdressers and all the rest of it. You know, that's sort of really down on myself kind of period. And that's normal for that kind of, when that sort of stuff's going on for you. But maybe I could have done with a local PT to have, you know, piqued my interest with something that they were offering. Maybe I could have been had my interest piqued with something like I don't know. I'm reading Emily's comments and I've lost my train of thought. Emily says, I really need to get into my free content. Absolutely you do, Em. I'll come back to that in just a sec. But perhaps while I'm running around, you know, forgetting to wash my hair for 3 weeks, or, okay, no, I never really did that. I just scratched a big red mark on myself. or, you know, not really taking care of the way I looked, then perhaps somebody that offered really easy makeup to put on, or, you know, a special deal at the local hairdresser, and it was pitched in such a way that it would build my self-confidence and build that sort of, you know, self-worth feelings. So it doesn't really matter what you're offering if you can target that person that you were a few years ago when you were going through the things that you were going through. And if you can help that person today get through what you went through faster with the thing that you're offering, then that's where your sale is. And that's where your following is. And that's where people are going to engage with the content that you are putting out. Excuse me. I don't know what Emily's just put onto. Oh, onto my free content. Yeah, okay, got it. So that kind of leads me into the next bit. Michelle Jones is in the house. Hi, Michelle. Just need some water. And some more wine. That first glass went down pretty quick, didn't it? Is anyone else drinking wine with me, or is it just me tonight? I just did a session with Michelle, and I was saying to her that I was coming on to the Powerhouse to do date night with Min, and she said she was going to join in case I talked about her. But you know what? You're going to have to watch the rerun now, because I talked about you at the start. No, I didn't. I didn't talk about you at the start at all. Emily's just finished a musket. Nice, Sam. Good work. I like it. I saw some Snapchats from Emily and her husband Adam today. Adam, I call him Huey. Adam. And it was so funny because they both came through at the same time, and they were both of exactly the same thing. They were of their little baby girl in front of their Christmas tree with this really annoying train going around and around and around. I'm sorry if you love it, Em, but it's really annoying. And both of the Snapchats were of exactly the same image, and I thought, oh, that's really sweet that they're both kind of sharing the same thing. Michelle says, I'll be watching Min, don't you worry. It's okay, darling. I didn't really talk about you. Oh, Emily didn't realise she'd sent it. Yeah, you both sent it. I got it from both of you exactly at the same time. So what was I going to talk about? Huey bought it for Isabel, apparently. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But it's a good excuse, right? Toy trains for little baby girls, I don't think so. I think that was all about Daddy. But that's okay, because it's, you know, he's allowed that, right? Free content. I wanted to talk to you about free content because Emily brought that up, and it's a really valid point. That the way to get into people's hearts is to give away your best stuff, or almost your best stuff, for free. And I know that seems like it's counterproductive, right? Why would I give my best stuff away and keep my less than best stuff for my paying clients, right? Doesn't make sense. But here's the thing. The sale is made before the sale's made, okay? So it's about making people fall in love with you. When you're marketing yourself online, the best way to get people on board, to get them to fall in love with you, is to do this kind of stuff, you know? To spend an hour sitting on your dining room table, wondering if the dog's about to start scratching at the door, drinking wine, and giving away free content, giving away free advice, and answering any questions that come up, and, you know, doing all of that stuff. Now, there has to come a point, obviously, where you stop, but it's the best way to give people a taste of what it's like to work with you. So if you're working in a service-based industry, like if you're working as a counsellor or a healer or a coach, any of those kinds of businesses, I would absolutely say get your best stuff out there and get it out there for free. Let people get a really good taste of what it's like to actually work with you. Now, the thing is that when I put this stuff out, you just take in whatever I've got to offer, right? You know? So this week, I've decided that I'm going to talk about, is your thing worth anything to anybody? And how to get over that and realise that there's enough people in the world for everybody to take, you know, and consume the thing that you're offering. That's what I decided that I was going to share. So whether or not that's relevant to you, whether or not it's of value to you, that's what I'm putting out there tonight, okay? Now, hopefully it hits the mark with some of you, and it is of value to some of you. Hopefully, and I know this to be the case because I can see, you know, I can see that my clients are all feeling this week, that, you know, what if no one's listening? What if the thing that I've put out isn't worth anything to anybody? But this is my choice to put this out, right? So you take from me all the free stuff that I put out, and you leave the stuff that you don't want, that isn't of any value to you. And hopefully the stuff that I do put out, there is something in there that's of value to you. And I'm going to take a guess that there is, because you're all here, right? And there's more people joining this group all the time. And there's more people following me all the time. So I'm taking a guess that there is something of value there. But the thing is that if you work with me, if you take that next step, and it would be exactly the same for you that work in a service-based kind of business, when you work with me, then the work that we do is specific to you and where you're at today, and is specific to your business. And the strategies that we work on aren't these big kind of generalized things. They're exactly targeted to the goals that you want to achieve. Okay, so it's not so much a case maybe of not getting as good a value as the free stuff that I put out, but getting a totally different way of working with me, getting a totally different thing, okay? But the idea is that in your free content, that it has to give people a really good idea of what it is like to work with you. And it has to give them a really good idea of that level of expertise that you have. And it has to give them a really good idea of how you can help them in that position that you were in a few years back down your life path. Yeah? So I think, you know, this is something that I can remember coming up against when I first started out in business, that I was definitely holding back. You know, I was definitely feeling a little bit kind of jaded. Oh, Christine's joined us. Hi, Christine. It's nice to have you along. Hope you've got your wine. I'm on to the glass number 2 for the session, so this could get interesting, right? For those of you that missed it, the plats are in today because I've spent a weekend at the beach and I've relaxed. I've forced myself to stop and take a little bit of time out for me, which I don't do well. I don't relax well at all. I tend to go until I fall in a heap in the bed at some stupid time at night. And I was just kind of feeling that it was time, you know, there was going to be some illness if I didn't. Or some anxiety. I'd started to get some of my anxiety had come back again. So that's when I know that it's time to put back in a little bit. So I took myself off to the beach, and when I get a little bit zenned out like that and push myself to relax, I kind of invoke my inner hippie, drag out all my hippie clothes, and just kind of zen, you know, and so the plats come back when I do that. So if you see my plats in, you know that I'm in a pretty chilled kind of place. So what I was talking about was how I felt when I started to put free content out. And I've got to be honest with you, I kind of felt a bit jaded. Emily's going to take Demazin and go to sleep. Oh, are you not well? That's not good. I might see an opportunity to go and take a baby for a little while. Maybe. Does Mummy need a rest? I might come and pinch that child. Kelly says, relax. What's that? I know, Kelly. I know. And perhaps you and I are cut from the same cloth in that respect. It's really hard. It's really hard to do. And I did work this weekend, and I have to say, when I got to my little apartment by the beach where I was staying, I need to tell you about that too. When I got to my apartment where I was staying and I saw that they had really kick-ass internet connection, I was like, thank goodness for that. You know, I can get some work done. And I did. I finished one night that I was away. I finished at 11 o'clock at night, but I did not set my alarm in the morning, and I did not get up at 5 o'clock like I usually do. And I did, you know, take some time out for me. I did go to the spa, and I did all those things. But, you know, it was a push. And I've got to tell you, you know, I had a couple of hours at the day spa, or 3 hours at the day spa today, and I was struggling to kind of relax for that long. You know, I was ready to get out there and do some more work, and I couldn't wait to get home and back to my Wi-Fi and start connecting with people and doing my work again. And you know, that's what drives me, so it's okay, but sometimes you do have to push yourself to sort of stop for a little while as well. But it was the most, don't even think about it, dog. It was the most perfect little weekend away. Oh, really? You know what that's about? That's because it's just started raining. And it's just been a little bit slick. Excuse me. Get down. It's illegal to cut dogs' paws off, isn't it? You can't do that. That's the fly wire that you can hear. It sounds like a 747 taking off, but he gets up there and he scratches the fly wire. I've got that really heavy metal fly wire so he doesn't break it. So yeah, it was the most gorgeous little place down at Smith's Beach, and there was bunnies hopping on the grass outside my door, and there was like tea tree outside my door, and beyond that was the beach. So I could hear the waves rolling in at night and stuff, and there was like hundreds of thousands of stars in the sky. It was just really, really gorgeous, and you kind of have to relax when it's like that, don't you? Does anyone want a dog? He's a big Lear. He's quite cute, but he does do that. So, you know, free to good home, but you have to come up with a good reason why he doesn't live here anymore that I can tell Elias, okay? That's the deal. It's the only reason that he's still here. I do love him. I do love him. I do. So what I was talking about was the fact that I really struggled when it came to putting out my best content for free. And I struggled with feeling jaded that people were getting so much of me and so much of my blood, sweat and tears for nothing. And I was just, you know, giving away my heart on a plate, basically. And at that point, I wasn't seeing any return, you know. I was seeing my email list was growing. I was seeing my Facebook following growing as well. But as we've been talking about, I wasn't getting the engagement back. I wasn't getting the sales. All I was doing was giving and giving and giving, and nothing came back. But this is what happens. It turns, you know, at some point that turns and you start to get really good at having sales conversations, or you start to get really good at writing sales copy, or people just are in a spot where they're ready to buy from you. And that's how this online business works, you know. There are going to be a lot of times that you feel like you are just giving your best stuff away for free, and you are, you know. That's how you build these relationships. That's how you get people to relate to you. That's how you get them to trust that you know what the fuck you're talking about and that you are the expert at what you do. And when they've gotten that trust, when that trust has been built, then when it comes time to buy, they're primed and they're ready to go. So, excuse me, I guess, you know, my message for you tonight is exactly that. Just keep going, because at some point the boat turns, you know, the ship turns, and people do start to jump in and start to buy from you. And it will happen if your message is from the heart, and if the thing that you're offering is really, really helpful to somebody and changes their lives or transforms something for them. And again, go back to where you were a few years ago when you were in your bad place, when you were feeling that pain, and fix that for them, you know. Fix it with whatever it is that you're offering, whether it be makeup, whether it be PT sessions, whether it be hampers of Christmas goodies. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But whatever you have to offer, if it fixes something for someone that was you a few years down the track, then you're on the right track and you're going to be all right. Okay, so that's my message. Just keep going. Just keep going. I think I'm done. I think I've run out of things to talk about. Has anyone got any questions? There's still a few kicking around up there. No? No ideas? No questions? I've decided that I need to move to the beach after this weekend. That's what I've decided. So the house that I want to buy is about $1.2 million. So I'm going to have to do a lot of work, right? So my rates have just gone up to like a gazillion an hour. So just so you know, because I need to fund this $1.2 million house at the beach. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone's got any questions, so I might finish that off. And Kelly's just said, have a great week. Thank you, darling girl. You have a great week too, and maybe get 1 or 2 early nights in there if you can. It's good for you. See what happens. See how you respond to getting some rest. Thanks, Angelica. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, everyone that's jumped on board tonight. And hopefully I can do another one of these really soon, because I really do love them. They're a lot of fun. And I hope you all have a really great week as well. Thanks, Michelle. All right, see you guys. Bye.